Good evening, friends. Welcome you to this Tuesday Critical Care and Emergency Department meetings. So, after almost a year of struggle, year of a unprecedented pandemic, now we are seeing some light at the end of a tunnel. We are having different vaccines available in different parts of the country, from the developed countries to developing countries like us. So we have different vaccines available. So right now we have a new problem with us. Many clinicians, many healthcare professionals have their own queries, own doubts, own debates on how effective these vaccines are, which vaccine I should take, is this vaccine safe, are they gone through adequate clinical trials, are they got regulatory authorities approval. So there are many questions roaming around in our minds. So clarify them. We will actually get into the points one by one. We have two eminent panelists who are seasoned in these areas. We have Dr. Visweswaran, who is the interventional pulmonologist in Yasoda Group of Hospitals in Malakpet. And we have Dr. Harikishan, who is a specialist in internal medicine. So he is working with Yasoda Group of Hospitals in Somajiguda. So we will take those questions one by one, and then probably we will take audience questions also. So to start with Dr. Visweswaran, so any vaccines, whenever we speak about any vaccine or any medications where we are using it for the first time, or we are using in the initial phases of this vaccinations, the first question comes in any recipient mind, or any vaccine recipient, healthcare professional or a public, is this vaccine safe? Is this vaccine adequately gone through the approvals, or adequately gone through the trials, that it is safely taken? What is your point on that?
For any vaccine or any drug for the matter, before it gets entered into the public domain, they go through a series of uh, clinical trials, which involves the preclinical, the phase 1, phase 2, and the phase 3, and followed by that, it is administered to the general public. Similarly, even for these vaccines, which are currently approved by the government of India, they have gone through a stringent clinical trial. Though we have an emergency approval, but these vaccines have still gone through the clinical phases of preclinical phase, phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. So definitely with respect to the safety of the vaccines, the safety of the vaccine has been well established, and it is very safe for the public to take these vaccines. So even for that matter, the Covishield and the Covaxin both have gone through the phase 3 clinical trials. And in phase 2, in phase 1 and in phase 2, they have already seen the safety of this vaccine. That is when they have entered into the phase 3. So for the general public, there shouldn't be much of a concern about the safety of the vaccine. So it is very safe, and it is appropriate for the population to get vaccinated with these vaccines.
Yeah, Dr. Visweswaran, we actually come across the news, or we may say it is a hype news, whenever one patient gets some giddiness, some syncopal crash, some chills, rigors, fever, or a few cases of eventualities, some neurological complications here and there, some Bell's palsy in some vaccinated population. So these information, which now is in the limelight of the headlines of many news channels, creating a lot of confusion among the common public and even in healthcare professionals. What is your take on that? What are the common side effects encountered with this vaccine? And what is your take on few case reports here and there where it has been shown to have some neurological and other side effects?
So any vaccine for that matter, when you give, your body is going to mount an immune response to it. So when it mounts an immune response to the vaccine, any person will have a tendency to develop slight fever, body aches, and sometimes pain at the injection site, and sometimes they may feel lethargic. These are very common symptoms with all the vaccines, leave aside COVID vaccine. So COVID vaccine also, when you give, you may experience some mild headache, some body pain, some light fever following the administration of the vaccine, or even you may have some pain at the injection site. These are very, very common, and there is nothing to panic about these side effects. And with respect to the reports that says that there are some cases of patients developing some facial nerve palsy, that is a neurological condition, or patients developing some sort of other neurological conditions like demyelinating disease or transverse myelitis, or there are few case reports of extremely aged people with excessive comorbidities who are dying following the administration of the vaccine. These are very rare case reports, and the exact causal relationship between the vaccine administration and these side effects are not well established. And some sporadic cases may occur, but that is common with all the vaccine. It is not only with the COVID vaccine, but in majority of the patients, these vaccines are very, very safe, and it has been proven through well established clinical trials, and there is no need to panic about the safety of the vaccines, though you may have some sort of mild reactions which are very common. So after the administration of the vaccine, even your healthcare worker may ask you to sit in a room for almost 30 minutes just to observe that if you develop these sort of transient reactions. Apart from that, in almost majority of the cases, you will not experience any of these side effects, and you can take these vaccines safely. And these case reports are also later they are proving that it may not be related to the vaccine, it may be related to the underlying condition of the patient, like the patient was extremely aged, the patient was having an underlying heart related problem, the patient was having from severe infections. So that cannot be attributed everything to the vaccine, but there are few case reports which are still under investigation, but majority of the cases there are no side effects with these vaccines.
Yeah. So safety profile is proven, and the side effects which we expect from any vaccine, either a live or a live attenuated or a part of the virion, is seen with all other like vaccines, is seen in this vaccine also. So there is no need to panic at this point of time. With the existing information, it is considered to be a safe vaccine. Dr. Visweswaran, there is another query that this, if I get a similar kind of symptoms like a fever, chills, maybe some amount of flu, which can be phenomenon in with these vaccines, how do you manage them? Dr. Visweswaran, are you there? Yeah, can you hear my question?
Sir, can you repeat it, sir?
Mild symptoms, these mild symptoms, whatever we see or encountered with this vaccinations, like a fever or a chill or some kind of flu-like symptoms, where we can anticipate with this kind of vaccinations. So what is the treatment, or how do you manage them, or what is the management protocol is been prescribed?
So for most of these symptoms are self-limiting, that even if you don't take treatment, these will settle on its own, just because it is just a normal immune response of your body against the newly administered weak form of virus or a dead virus. So most of them will settle on its own. But if it is going to create some problem to you in the form of a fever, then maybe you can take a paracetamol, or if you have some sort of a pain at the injection site, you may be administered a painkiller by your physician. And this myalgia, that means the weakness and the general tiredness, what you experience following vaccine, is generally self-limiting in a day or two. So nothing to worry about those side effects. Only if you develop some sort of facial nerve palsy, like where there is a drooping of your eyelids, or one side of your face, something you feel there is an abnormality, or you feel there is some features that is suggestive of underlying neurological problem, then that is something which seriously has to be reported to your concerned healthcare professional. But apart from that, all the other side effects do not require any extensive treatment like an admission or an observation. They are self-limiting, and most of them can be treated just with mild dose of anti-fever medicines or painkillers for that matter.
So the mild symptoms are common and should be managed symptomatically, and you can report your healthcare team, whoever actually vaccinated, or you, the team who you are attached to. And probably only in a severe form, you may need to be under observation. The initial 30 minutes is a mandatory observation. After that, if you get the symptoms, you may need to be carried out for the observation. But most of the time, it is symptomatic. So coming to Dr. Harikishan, um,
Good evening.
now we have actually discussed about the safety. Now next question is, who should get vaccination? Who are the
Yeah,
population, who are the persons who should get vaccinated?
yeah. Good evening. As of now, the vaccine is approved for usage in people above 18 years, 18 and above. Okay, and there's no restriction. Even elderly people above 55 also can be vaccinated. However, there are a few groups like pregnancy and lactating women. As of now, it's not approved for usage in them simply because the clinical trials which were conducted, they did not include pregnant women and lactating women. And then, so overall, anybody above 18 years is eligible for vaccination except pregnant women. So since there is limitation of the vaccine supply and it's not possible to vaccinate everyone, in a short span of time, right now the priority is given. We know that right now we don't have direct access to the vaccine. It's only through the government. We cannot just go buy the vaccine as of now. So the government has prioritized. In the initial phase, they are vaccinating the frontline with the healthcare personnel, be it the doctors or the other people working in the hospital. And then next will be people above the age of 55 and people with comorbidities like diabetes, blood pressure, obesity, chronic kidney disease, heart problems, severe asthma, etc. Because we are aware that people with comorbidities, if they get infected with SARS-CoV-2 virus, they are at increased risk of developing severe infection. So they will be given priority after the healthcare personnel. So in general, anybody above 18 years, except pregnant and lactating women. So, but what about pregnant women? Let's say if they are pregnant healthcare workers who are pregnant. So then on case-to-case basis, we can discuss the pros and cons that, we know that most vaccines, when they were introduced into market, like even the flu vaccines, in the initial studies, pregnant women were not included. But with time, they were included, and then we found that they're all safe. And we know that traditionally, except live attenuated vaccines, most of the other vaccines are safe. Even live attenuated vaccines can be given if really required after the first trimester. So none of the vaccines that are available now are live attenuated. So theoretically, they should be all right in pregnancy, but they're not approved as such. But if a doctor wants to take, if she's pregnant, we can discuss on one-to-one basis. Even in US, actually, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology has issued a similar statement that if some medical person wants to take, they can take. It is just that pregnant women have not been included in the trials, but doesn't mean that they will have problems with the vaccine. Eventually, we will have trials including these women, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be okay.
Well, eventually everyone will get vaccinated, but on a phase-wise manner with the trials including them, including I think the children's will also come in those age groups. But right now we are going through probably a prioritizing way in frontliners. As you rightly pointed out, healthcare workers, and probably next will be the other high-risk group, probably police and other officials who are also onto the frontline in many areas where they have a high risk of exposure. Probably they will also get the frontliners, and then high risk group, and then later on probably the whole population will slowly get into this vaccination protocol. So right now the other part of the question is, now we have new in the news that from the last 2 months, from December and this month, that different vaccines are available, and different companies have come up with different vaccines. So what are the different vaccines available, and what are those vaccines? So many of us wanted to know that, Dr. Harikishan.
Yeah, unarguably, this is the worst kind of pandemic we have seen in our lifetime or even before that. And then if you look at the vaccine development, that has taken, it's a, war footing pace. So roughly about 50 plus vaccines are right now under clinical trials. 50 plus. I mean, I don't think it had ever happened before, because this pandemic is of such a serious nature. I think the whole world has come together, all the scientific community, across the continents. I think they got together. I think that's why there are so many vaccines under trial now. But there are few vaccines which are already in usage. If you take India, there are 2 vaccines right now have got approval, though it is emergency authorization. Okay, so one is the Covishield one, which basically was developed or manufactured by Serum Institute in India in collaboration with Oxford AstraZeneca. Okay, this particular vaccine is basically the genetic code for preparing the spike protein of the virus that basically is injected into our body through non-replicative adenovirus vector. Okay, so that is the Covishield virus. And then we have something called Covaxin, which is again being developed by an Indian company, Bharat Biotech, in liaison with ICMR and National Institute of Virology. But that is still undergoing phase 3 trials. For the Covishield, internationally, like the phase 3 trials, there is good amount of data from phase 3 trials from UK, from Brazil, from South Africa. There is good amount of data from phase 3 trials. Covaxin is right now in phase 3 trial. It's not published yet, the data, it's not completed, but the authorities or the scientific expert committee which gave emergency authorization approval, they are privy to the information. Even for the Covaxin, the safety information, and whatever information, the interim data on the phase 3, I think they have access to it, though it's not published. Whereas for Covishield, we have data from other countries. Covishield is right now undergoing phase 2, phase 3 in India as well, but internationally, even in UK, it was approved. So these are the two vaccines that are available in our country. Covaxin is an inactivated vaccine. Covishield is a basically adenovirus vector-based vaccine. And then in US and in other Western countries, what's commonly used now is one is they're mRNA-based vaccines, which is again a new technology when it comes to human vaccination, wherein we are not introducing the virus protein or particle into a recipient, where we are introducing the mRNA so we are introducing the mRNA into the recipient, and the recipient actually manufactures the antigen of the protein, and his or her own immune system develops immune response to it. Okay, so that is one is by Pfizer. It's called Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. Other one is a Moderna. Both are mRNA vaccines, and they are now being used in other countries, in US, UK, etc. However, we don't have access to these vaccines now. So these are the, I think, the most important vaccines now. Probably in near future, we probably will have access to one of these vaccine. And then we have something called Sputnik vaccine, which is a Russian, probably one of the earliest to be used, but only in Russia it is. Probably now in India, the Reddy's Laboratories is actively working on Sputnik vaccine. I think already phase 2/3 trial is going on. I believe 3 days back, there was a newspaper article saying that Reddy's Laboratory has got a nod from DGCI for phase 3 trial as well. And that's also again adenovector-based vaccine. And there is a Chinese vaccine which we do not have much information about it. So the most important things right now that are available in India is Covishield, okay, by Serum Institute of India in liaison with AstraZeneca, Oxford AstraZeneca, which are international companies, and then Covaxin by our own Bharat Biotech, and then we have Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, which is an mRNA vaccine, and Moderna again, which is an mRNA vaccine. These four, and soon probably we will see Sputnik, and there is Zydus, which is again an Indian company that is working on a DNA vaccine. And there are more than 50 vaccines, to be precise, which are under clinical trials right now.
Thank you, Harikishan. So now to Dr. Vishweshwaran. So we have at this point of time at least 3 vaccines, the Pfizer one, the Moderna, and the Covishield, which is available internationally, and added to that Sputnik in Russia. But in India, we have 2 vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin. So many of us had doubt that what is the effectiveness of the vaccine. We have listened to actually safety, then we listened to about the number of vaccines or the type of different types of vaccines available. What do you think about the effectiveness of the vaccines? And then we'll come to which should I prefer.
So regarding the efficacy of the vaccine, the WHO has clearly said that any vaccine that is to be approved to enter into the market for common public administration should have at least an efficacy of 50%. So all these vaccines, whichever are into the market, have an efficacy more than 50%. And in generally, what has been observed is the efficacy ranges between somewhere around 70% to 90%, which is fair enough for any vaccine to have the herd immune response, which we are really thinking about. So all these vaccines have an efficacy somewhere ranging around 70 to 90% on a gross scale. And even the efficacy of the Covishield and the Covaxin, which are the two primary vaccines which are available in India, do not differ much in their efficacy. That is the claim by both the Serum Institute of India and the Bharat Biotech, which produces these vaccines. But however, to be very precise about the exact efficacy of these vaccines, we will know it only when these have effectively completed the phase 3 trials and there is a large amount of pooled data from all different parts of the world, because the vaccine response may vary even depending upon the race and the genetic aspects and other things. So as of now, the immediate data we have is somewhere around 70 to 90, but with time we will know how efficacious these vaccines are in a real time and how long this immune response really works. As of now, we don't know whether this vaccine induced immune response is going to last. How long, we really don't have the answer. Only with time we will be able to say whether these vaccines will really last for a longer time, or there is a need for yearly vaccination as we do for influenza, or there is a need for any booster vaccination. That only with time we will be knowing.
Yeah, so right now, whatever vaccines we have in India, both Covaxin and Covishield, both have gone through DCGI approvals, and both has been reviewed by a scientific committee for its safety, and both have been considered to be safe and effective at this point of time. We have interim analysis of the phase 3 trial about Covishield, which is a Serum Institute's development along with collaboration with Oxford and AstraZeneca. Whereas in Covaxin, we are in phase 3 trial, but this has also been reviewed by DCGI expert panel and they found it to be safe and effective. That's where it is rolled on. At this point of time, we as a healthcare professionals who is now getting an opportunity to get vaccinated has no option to choose. Whatever vaccine is being delivered or whatever vaccine has been available to be given to the healthcare workers is available. You cannot have an option to choose. You can always defer or deny, but that will be given. That vaccine will be available for another person for another person's benefit at this point of time. So with this, I think we will take on to the next question. Visweswaran, what is the different doses required? What is the route and how many times or how many number of doses we need to take to get this vaccine effective?
So with respect to the dose, both the Covishield and the Covaxin, the dose is 0.5 ml and the route of administration is intramuscular. So you need to give it through intramuscular route and you need to take two vaccines. The first vaccine followed 28 days later, you need to take the second dose of this vaccine. So that is the recommendation by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare with respect to the Covishield and the Covaxin, which are currently available in India. So 0.5 ml intramuscular and two doses 28 days apart is the schedule.
So, how many? Suppose tomorrow I take a vaccine, and many of our healthcare professionals still wanted to know, or the public also wanted to know that after taking the vaccine, am I immediately get protected from this virus, or from tomorrow onwards I can just take out my mask or drop my gears of protection and go away, or how many days it takes me to get that immunity or that protection in me?
So for
Dr. Hari.
vaccine, the immune response will start only at least 14 days following the second dose. That means if you get vaccinated today, you are not going to have any immune response. So after 28 days, you are going to take the second dose. And after you take the dose, after 14 days, you are going to have the effective immune response where we say that your vaccination is really working. So approximately 6 weeks or 42 days following the first dose of vaccine, you are going to really have these antibodies to counteract against the virus. So you need to have all your personal protective equipment if you are a healthcare worker, or if you are a general public, you need to wear the mask, maintain the social distancing, avoid handshakes, use sanitizers, at least even after the vaccination and even after you have received two doses of vaccination, because there are chances that you may still contract. So you need to maintain all these social barriers even though you are vaccinated.
So, Dr. Hari, after taking vaccine, can I have still a chance that I will transmit this virus to others if I get infected after the vaccination?
Yeah. So vaccine, what does it do? One, it reduces the risk of infection, right? Two, even if you get infected, the chance of a vaccinee or vaccine recipient developing severe infection is less because our body, has better immunity, our body is in a better position to tackle the infection because we are already primed. However, once we are infected, despite vaccination, we can still transmit it. That's why it's important that we still take all the precautions, that the standard SMS, the masking, social distancing, etc., even after being vaccinated. Okay, so we can still transmit the infection, though we are at lesser or lower risk of severe infection because of the vaccination, because of the immunity provided by the vaccine to us.
Dr. Visweswaran, there are many patients or there are many healthcare professionals who actually got mild to moderate symptoms. Few of them also hospitalized with confirmed diagnosis of COVID, and RT-PCR become positive, and they had a radiological finding. They took time to recover. So what is your take on vaccinating them, those patients who actually had a COVID disease?
So there is a clear-cut Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines on who has to be vaccinated and who shouldn't be vaccinated. It is very clear that if you had a previous history of COVID-19 infection, then you need to wait for at least 4 to 8 weeks following that infection to get vaccinated with the vaccines. So if you fall within that time period, then they say that better is to avoid vaccination. And once you cross this 4 to 8 weeks following your illness, you are eligible for the vaccination. This is a guideline recommendation as per the Ministry of the Health and the Family Welfare. And apart from that, any patient who is currently having COVID infection or patient who is really sick on requiring ICU assistance or on ventilators, or for whom recently there has been a transfusion of these plasmas for COVID infection, these patients should generally avoid taking the vaccine immediately. So the guideline recommendation by India is 4 to 8 weeks following your getting treated for a COVID infection. Though the foreign Western guidelines slightly differ, they say that after 14 days you recover from the illness, you are still eligible for vaccination. So there is some difference in our recommendation and with respect to the world guideline recommendations.
After the vaccination, Hari, what do you think that after the vaccination, how many days these vaccines will protect us or protect a person?
So you mean to say how long will the immunity last, right?
How long it will protect you?
Yeah. So as of now, see, obviously, what is considered is that at least they will give us immunity, or post-vaccination, the immunity will last for at least 6 months to 1 year. However, we will have time will tell us, because all these vaccines are recent. Many of them have just completed the phase 3 trials. So we'll have to probably wait for another year to exactly know the thing, how long the immunity because of vaccination lasts. But as of now, what is said is it will be minimum 6 months. It's probably 6 months to 1 year.
Okay, so I think we still probably will not know definite cutoff period, but probably we are expecting it, that we are predicting at least it will give a immunity for a year or two, at least that way. So we'll take some questions. If we take vaccine, is there any chance to get corona? Any of you? So, Dr. Hari, you can take this question. The question is, if I take a COVID vaccine, do I have a chance of getting COVID-19 infection? Harikishan, you are muted yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we know that the vaccine efficacy is about 60 to 70%. That is under the strict trial conditions. So efficacy is what our trial tells us. But when it comes to practice, the effectiveness may be a little lower than that because of the storage conditions, the transportation, etc. So we know that it's only about 60% efficacy. That means about 40 out of 100 people may still not develop adequate immunity to the infection, right? So there is still chance of getting COVID. However, post-vaccination, if at all we get infected, the infections, the disease tends to be milder. Okay. So that's why, but still we can transmit it. That's why, to Dr. Venkat's question previously, I said that even if we are vaccinated, we still have to take all the precautions so as to prevent transmission to others. So in nutshell, after vaccination, there is still chance of getting COVID infection.
Dr. Hari, I think there can be two ways of this question. One is, do COVID vaccines can cause a COVID-19
Okay,
infection?
that's the,
That
okay,
is one
sorry.
part.
Yeah.
And the other part is, after vaccination, even though you get a COVID infection by an exposure, there may be chance of mild disease or
Right,
a mild
right.
infection.
Yeah.
So is there any chance of getting COVID-19 disease from the vaccine itself?
Okay, that's the question. Sorry, so there is no chance of getting COVID infection from the vaccination, right? Because what we are injecting is, it's either the mRNA for a spike protein, right, or the genetic code for the spike protein or inactivated vaccine. We know that they cannot cause infection. As of now, all the vaccines that are there, they're not live vaccines. Okay, they're the Covaxin, which is a kill vaccine, and the Covishield, which is a adenovirus vector-based vaccine, wherein we're actually giving and introducing the genetic code for the spike protein. So the spike protein that cannot infect a cell. Okay, so there is no chance of getting COVID infection because of the vaccination per se.
Yeah, true. So this vaccine cannot cause you a COVID-19 disease. It may cause a mild symptoms because of the immune response has already been pointed out, but that will not turn into a COVID-19 disease. There was another interesting question, which I think is something which is enlightening all of us also. If he says the patient is asymptomatic in the initial phase where he got the first dose, and that particular healthcare worker or a patient gets into a disease in between the first and second dose, what will be the general course? Visweswaran, you want to take the question?
So generally, this scenario happened with one of the representatives in the Indian Parliament. He received the first dose, and before he could receive the second dose, he was diagnosed with a COVID infection. So that is very much a possibility. As we have already said, your adequate immune response or the expected immune response will occur only after 14 days of your second vaccination dose. So after your first vaccine, you are still prone to get infected or even have the disease of COVID-19. So you need to be very cautious. You cannot assume that after taking the first dose, you have developed an immune response. So you are at a chance of developing COVID infection as well as severe forms of COVID infection if you have not completed at least 14 days following the second dose of vaccine.
Yeah, there is another question. Is Pfizer vaccine available in India? I think this question has already been answered. Right now, we have only two vaccines which has DCGI approval and is available in India. Those are Covishield and Covaxin. At this point of time, other vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer vaccine, and also the Sputnik, which is not available. Maybe in future time, it may be available. The other question is, do Covaxin covers new strains? This is an again interesting question. I think many of our colleagues and healthcare workers and professionals must be listening about the news of mutant variant or a mutant strain in UK, where it was found to spread to the many parts, not only just UK and other European countries and US, and even in India, we are every day growing that number to hundreds. At this point of time, we may not have a definite answers, but the scientific community in the area of research feels that the Covishield, which is a AstraZeneca Oxford based, our Bharat Serums, not Bharat Serums, or the Covishield, which is available, or the Covaxin, both should cover this mutation, because see, the spike protein for which this Covishield vaccine is available may create antibodies for many parts of it. So just one mutation may not make this vaccine completely ineffective. In the same way as a inactivated or virion based, the Covaxin vaccine may also have antibodies for the many parts of the spike protein. So hopefully we expect at this point of time or predict that these vaccines will be effective against these mutant variants. But there were some queries about the South African mutant variants where there can be some escape. But definitely we do not know for sure at this point of time. Probably in the future course of time with the further evaluation we may get. But at this point of time, whatever the information across the world with different scientific communities experience, or with scientific communities own way of thinking, is that these vaccines may help in those mutant variants also. So the other question is, Dr. Hari, you can take this. A person who has already suffered COVID,
Yeah.
is it really necessary to take vaccine? Because he already developed antibodies, he tested himself, and some of our healthcare workers who actually never had a disease but has gone through this antibody testing, and many of them found to have antibodies positive. So do they really need to get vaccinated?
Yeah. So people who have recovered from COVID, many of them develop immunity, but some of the people with milder infections may not mount a robust immune response. In fact, we know that some people who had mild COVID infections, if you check their IgG antibodies, some of them actually they're not detectable really. But even for the people with moderate to severe illness, where they are like they have neutralizing antibodies, if you test them after a month or so, after a few weeks, the immunity because of natural infection is not long lasting. It may be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Beyond 6 months, that antibody titers, antibody levels are likely to wane off, and then we will become susceptible to infection again. Whereas the longevity, the durability of the immunity provided by the vaccine is uh, supposed to last longer, at least 6 months, roughly to 6 months to 1 year or more. But compared to the immunity which is provided by natural infection, which is expected to last somewhere around 3 months, or maybe for some people up to 6 months. So that is not long lasting, whereas the vaccine provides a longer duration of immunity. So that's why people who recover from infection, they should still, it's a good idea to take vaccination again.
We at this point of time, it is recommended that after probably the same time limit of 4 to 8 weeks after your recovery, you still should take the vaccine, because it's as pointed out, it will give you a more long-lasting protection than a natural infection. So there is another interesting question. I will ask Dr. Visweswaran to answer this. After taking Covishield, suppose in the future I will have another vaccine available in a month time, either a Moderna or a Pfizer. If it will be available, can I take this vaccine again to have more protection?
So this is the government recommendations are again very clear. If you take the one vaccine, your booster, that is the 28-day later, which you are supposed to take, should be of the same vaccine company. This is because that it is important to monitor any adverse effects occurring secondary to these vaccines, and also to determine whether these vaccines are efficacious. You need to take the same brand of the vaccine. And so taking another group of vaccine or the another company of vaccine is not advisable. And if you are administered either Covishield or Covaxin, your follow-up dose of vaccine should be of the same Covishield or Covaxin. You are not supposed to take any other vaccine, because you may not know which has caused the adverse effect, and you may not know whether these taking two different company made vaccines are really efficacious or not.
Yeah, at this point of time, that is the standard protocol, and we even don't know how two different vaccines given in the two different time frames. We don't know their interaction and how the immunogenicity will be behave. So at this point of time, the same vaccine need to be given. I think the all the three, even in Covaxin and Pfizer and Moderna, will have the same dose and same vaccine, whereas in Covishield it will be first half and then the second one. That's how it is probably naming, but it has to be the same vaccine. There is another interesting question that have we seen any neurological demyelinating phenomenons with currently available two vaccines in India, that is Covishield and Covaxin? Harikishan, any comments on that?
Yeah, Covaxin, maybe you can answer. I don't have access to that information, but the Covishield, the phase 3 interim data of phase 3 trial that was published in Lancet January 9th issue. Basically, there were 3 out of the 11,000 odd vaccine recipients. There were 3 cases of transverse myelitis. However, the expert committee or whoever kind of analyzed the thing, they at least 2 patients, they probably felt it was not directly related to the vaccine, and the third person, it was blinded. They still don't know. He's still under the trial. Okay, what actually he received. there were 3 cases of transverse myelitis on the whole, one in the placebo group, one in the vaccine group, I think. And then one, they're not sure what it is because that's not revealed what exactly the patient received. But that can be just a coincidence also. We do not know. If there are too many cases, then we can think about, association or a causal association. But in 11,000 patients, 1 or 2 cases, it can be just a coincidence also. But there were, in that particular trial, there were 3 cases of transverse myelitis.
So the interim analysis, which is published about Covishield at that point of time, had few cases. But when the same phase 3 trial, which is approved in India, where they started the phase 3 trial from Covishield, and phase 1, 2, 3 about the Covaxin, in both of them, the common side effects were same, like fever, myalgia, headaches, and some allergic reactions and all that. But as such, the severe neurological manifestations or complications which were documented in the previous interim analysis are not seen in India. So at this point of time, we do not have such a severe complications reported in India at this point of time. I have reviewed the complications list, but in those list also in India, it was in the phase 3 trial also, till this point of time, whatever information available, it has not been noted. So that's another, I think, more sensitive and tricky question. Given a chance, what do you prefer, a Covishield and a Covaxin? I think at this point of time, as I already answered this question, you do not have a choice between a Covishield and a Covaxin. Whatever vaccine is available, you should take this. Both vaccines has proven to be equally safe and effective. And this has been reviewed in all phase 1, phase 2, and ongoing phase 3 trial. We do understand the Covishield has a published interim analysis report, and it has been used in few of the other countries, including UK, Brazil, and other parts of the world. Whereas Covaxin is ongoing in phase 3 trial. And we need to understand that Covaxin is a whole virion with inactivated or a killed virion, whereas the Covishield is a spike protein based vaccine. So at this point of time, you do not have actually a preference or choice over one another. Whatever vaccine is available, you can safely take them. Both vaccines is considered to be safe and effective. So there are other questions, I'm taking them. Mortality rate is much higher in elderly with comorbidities. Given the fact, is there any separate study that says the efficacy of the vaccine higher for higher risk population, elderly population with comorbidities, risk benefit ratio of the vaccine in low risk population, younger healthy individuals? Dr. Hari, you pointed out related to the high risk group, actually, who got the complex complications.
So the answer would to the second, risk benefit ratio. Basically, we are talking about number needed to prevent, right, or number needed to treat to prevent a severe infection. So obviously, it will be more. The benefit ratio will be more for the elderly or the people with comorbidities who are at increased risk of infection, a severe infection, right? So you have to, because the younger people without comorbidities, the chance of severe disease is less. To prevent one severe infection, you will probably have to treat many more people. That means you have to treat many more, vaccinate many more people. So the risk benefit ratio will be more in elderly population of people with comorbidities who are at increased risk of developing severe infection. Okay, and efficacy of the vaccine in higher risk population. So that is, we know that the efficacy on the whole is 60 to 70% for Covishield. I am not sure of, like, they had 3 groups in that publication, 18 to 55, then 55 to 70, 69, and 70 years and above, I think. But I'm not sure whether there was, I don't think there was significant difference in the vaccine efficacy. But one thing we know that people with poor, see, finally, what is vaccine doing? It's stimulating our own immune system. So people with a good immune system, they develop a, they respond better to vaccine. So people who are malnourished, people who have, let's say, who are immunocompromised, let's say they have HIV or they've been on immunosuppressants, people who are very elderly, who have weakened immunity compared to younger, their immune response, their immunity development in response to the vaccine, theoretically will be little lesser compared to a otherwise healthy person. But I think in that particular trial, as far as I remember, I don't think there was much difference between the efficacy. If they took, because most of the people were between 18 to 55 age group. There were few people, I think about 12% of the whole trial population was about above 55. I don't think there was much difference between both the groups. Dr. Venkat, you can probably throw some light.
Initially, it was with the healthy group with 18 to 55, as you rightly pointed out. Later on, it is expanded to the higher age groups also, and it is found to be equal effectiveness. I think the some worries are in recently, if you say the Norway information related to few associations of elderly people with multiple comorbidities in healthcare settings or long-term healthcare settings, giving eventualities or deaths. I think those were the population which I think few of the recent news has been in the circles. So I think a patient or a high risk group, when he is hospitalized with multiple comorbidities with high risk, and they have been not studied. We are talking about healthy individuals who have been studied in different age groups, initially with 18 to 55, then 55 to either 70 and more than 70 also. But those who are hospitalized with multiple comorbidities and sicker group, probably they were the group where they are considered to be fragile. Even the milder symptoms of fever, chills, or some kind of tachypnea, tachycardia, or some allergic phenomenon, these patients may land up into the complexities and having some eventualities. So those are the fragile population where we are at this point of time. I think there is some ongoing analysis going on to restrict the immunization to them, but the rest, healthy elderly age group are, I think, are the age group which should be getting priorities to get vaccinated at this point of time. There is another question links to this. Can this vaccine be administered to diabetic and heart disease patients? Dr. Visweswaran, to you.
So as of now, in the first line, only the government of India is giving it for healthcare workers and frontline workers. But in the second phase, it will be given for people who are aged more than 50 years or people who are aged less than 50 years with comorbidities. So at that time, these are the patients who are really targeted to receive these vaccinations. So
Dr. Visweswaran, I think many doctors are also hypertensive and diabetic.
Yeah, they can take vaccines. In fact, they should be given the priority to take these vaccines because they are at a higher risk of developing severe forms of COVID infection, and vaccine in them can decrease the severity of the infection. So they are the patients who are to be targeted to receive these vaccinations.
There is another question. We hear people talking about vaccine changing a genetic makeup, hence also cures cancer. Can you clarify? Any comments on that, Visweswaran?
As of now, the vaccine only, it's very new to the world. So vaccine preventing cancer may be a long-term.
Curing cancer, there is a positive aspect of it.
This is something that I don't think there is any data, but I need to review it. So I will not be the perfect person to comment.
I think we do not see this happening. The BCG being used for some bladder carcinoma irrigation, those are all different areas, but particularly if you look at the COVID related vaccination, at this point of time, either
can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
See, none of the vaccines we are using right now they're not DNA vaccine. They're the mRNA vaccine or the spike protein. This thing, they don't enter the nucleus, right? So they cannot change our genetic makeup. I don't think we need to be worried about that because they're not DNA vaccines. Oh. It's an mRNA vaccine or a spike protein based vaccine. So they don't enter the nucleus and they don't change our genetic makeup in any way.
True. So it will not change the genetic makeup at this point of time with RNA viruses or spike protein vaccines and the old virion vaccine. So there is another question, the history of atopy and allergy, can they be vaccinated? Any of you? Hari, you can take
this. So people with history of allergy to any of the components of COVID vaccine, okay, that is a contraindication. Or people who had developed severe allergy to any other vaccine, I mean, other than COVID vaccine, they should actually inform that to the people who are going to administer. Otherwise, people who have some food allergy or some form of atopy, that is not a contraindication for vaccination. Some people are allergic to some pets and some few medication or some food. That is not considered a contraindication for vaccine. They can be vaccinated.
Another question to you, Hari, is it safe to administer in parturients, the lactating mothers? I mean to say. Dr. Hari, is it safe to be used in parturients or lactating mothers? I think Dr. Hari's got frozen. Viswaswaran, you can go ahead.
Most of these vaccine trials have not included the pregnant women or the lactating women. And as per Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines, these patients are not to be vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccine, especially pregnant women or lactating mothers. But world guidelines slightly differ. They say that even though we don't have evidence, given the uncertainty of the pandemic, pregnant women and lactating women can still be vaccinated. But in India, as of now, as per the government guidelines, pregnant women and lactating mothers should not be vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay, there is another interesting question related to your department. Can an adult with pulmonary hypertension can take the vaccine?
If he fits into the criteria, as of now, only healthcare and frontline. But later, yes, they may be vaccinated. There shouldn't be any contraindication. Any patient who is more than 18 years, eventually, during the course of vaccination, they are going to come into this vaccination frame. So they have to get vaccinated.
So there is another question. Is any patient having drug reactions, can they be vaccinated?
So that is what, if you had any previous history of allergic reaction to any of the components of the vaccine or any other vaccine in the past, then you may have a contraindication for vaccination. So apart from that, any other general drug allergy should not abstain you from getting vaccinated.
There is another interesting question. Post-vaccination, how long you need to absence him from alcoholism or consumption to be avoided during this period? Any change in lifestyle, Dr. Hari?
So one is, conceiving after taking a vaccine. For a live vaccine, we say that for 4 weeks they should avoid conceiving, right? For a live attenuated vaccine, right? But for this Covishield, as of now, there is no information, but I think that makes sense, right? For at least, I think if you've taken the vaccine, since we don't know, we don't have a lot of information, it's better to postpone conception for at least 4 to 8 weeks, okay, after the second dose of vaccine. Okay. Alcohol, the question is whether they can take alcohol after vaccination.
Yeah, how many days you need to ask them from absence?
Alcohol, we won't recommend anyone to take alcohol on a regular basis, but I don't think there's anything in particular with COVID vaccination and alcohol. I don't think there should be any.
Dr. Hari, what happened is, I think the Sputnik, the Russians considered to consume a good quantity of alcohols in their regular daily habits. So it has been seen that a heavy quantity of alcohol can blunt your immune or immunogenicity and antibody production in them. So in Russia, those who actually receive Sputnik has been advised to avoid heavy doses of or heavy quantity of alcohol for at least 4 to 8 weeks. They said probably a small quantity of beer or a few ounces of alcohol is acceptable, but heavy alcohol should be avoided for that 4 to 6 weeks till this antibodies or immunogenicity gets developed.
Another thing, if they develop some hepatitis or something because of binge, alcohol, binging on alcohol.
Do we have any side effects for underaged? Viswaswaran, is this questions to you? There are a few doubts on that.
So again, recommendations are clear. Less than 18 years, you should not get vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccination because we don't have any data for it. And even when we observed the COVID pandemic, most of the pediatric population or young population, they weren't the most susceptible groups. So as of now, it is not advisable to vaccinate any person less than 18 years of age. That is a common.
Yeah, so as pointed out, there are not many side effects because this has been not there are no trials in the pediatric or neonatal or under the 18 age group. So we do not have any data to say there are either more side effects or less side effects at this point of time. The underaged or below 18 years, we do not have any evidence to say either of them either have more side effects or less side effects. But whatever worldwide we see ki the pediatric population has not been the high risk group, at least only a very few cases we see it, multi syndrome or multi system syndrome effects, but other than that many of them have not gone into a severe disease. There is another question which is pertinent to India. I think Dr. Hari can answer this question. So in India, many population are gone through a severe malnourishment or malnutrition. Is this vaccine has anything to do with the malnourishment in the future?
No, no. See, like the safety wise, I don't think there should be an issue. Okay, but we know that the immunogenicity may not be as good in response to a vaccine in somebody with poor immunity. Malnourished, severe malnutrition is an immunocompromised condition, right? So, like people with HIV. So that way, the immunogenicity may not be as good in somebody who is severely malnourished. We're not talking about mild to moderate malnutrition. We're talking about people who are severely malnourished. The immunogenicity to a vaccine may not be as good. Safety-wise, I don't think there should be much of a concern. I think it will be same as any other group.
There is another, I think there are many repeated questions related to this. Suppose I take two vaccines of one company or one group, either Covishield or Covaxin, whichever is available to me. In the future, after 6 months, per se, if I need to take a second boosters or second set of vaccine, should I need still to stick with the same vaccine, or I can choose another vaccine in the future? Visweswaran, can you take this question?
So right now the focus is only on current vaccination. There are literally nobody knows what is going to be there for you in the future. So as of now, you have to take the same brand of vaccines. And in future, as of now, we don't have any recommendations whether one vaccine can be repeated following another previous vaccine company. So this is a very far-fetched thought, and maybe only when we cross over this vaccination phase, we'll have really data to suggest if there are any interactions between two company vaccines or anything. So as of now, it is not recommended to take two different companies as of now, and future recommendations, we still don't know anything about it.
Yeah, there are actually many questions linked to is this vaccine safe in diabetes? Is this vaccine safe in hypertension? Is this vaccine safe in pregnancy and lactation? Is this vaccine safe in thyroid disorders? This vaccine is safe, and probably hypertensive, diabetic, and thyroid and high risk group. Probably this is a priority to give these vaccines because they have been considered to be, at least hypertensive and diabetic is considered to be in high risk groups. Coming to the pregnancy and lactation, because this vaccine has not been trialed in those population at this point of time in Government of India, this has been restricted to non-pregnant, non-lactating and age above 18 years. So in future, probably when we have more data on pregnancy and lactating, this can be used. But as pointed out by Dr. Hari, if a person comes into healthcare worker and high risk group, it can be individualized with a personal level concern. So I think the drug allergy question we have answered. When will this vaccine be available commercially? Anyone?
I think they should ask the government of India.
So I think I was listening to both the Bharat Serums and our that is Covaxin team, Covishield and Covaxin team. I think they are trying to first fulfill the government's requirement to vaccinate the frontliners. So once the frontliners and probably the high risk group is done, they're planning to launch, if these things get over by the next couple of months or so, By March and April, they are planning at this point of time, they're planning to launch. So we expect this vaccine to be available commercially by March and April. But I'm talking about only the Covishield and Covaxin. I'm not sure about the other vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna, when they will be available to the commercial use. Do vaccinated person mount so much of antibodies that they can donate plasma for the patient suffering from COVID? Harikishan, something very out of box thought.
uh, I guess so. Why not? I mean, it's the same, right? You're looking at immune response. All that you're looking at is neutralizing antibodies, right? So theoretically, I mean, I mean, really out of the box thinking that question. But
Yeah, I think the
that will not be called convalescent plasma. That will be called the immunoglobulin therapy or whatever.
immune plasma. Anyway, I think the plasma itself is under the scanner right now for the last, I think, 3 or 4 months. Its validity and its use and appropriateness and timing and all that. With the current situation, at least we don't know whether this will still stick back till the immune patient will get its antibodies, and then they will have high titer, and that will be useful or not. And we hope we will not have many patients by the time once we vaccinate a good amount of population, when we have some herd immunity in them. So I think we have many questions, but I think there are many repetitions on this. Any final take-home messages, Dr. Visweswaran, at this point of time? Now, many healthcare workers are just waiting for the vaccination to be given, or few may have already been vaccinated. So what is your take-home on the vaccine at this point of time? Visweswaran.
The claim is vaccine is safe and efficacious, and there is more of projection about negativity of the vaccine, which is very common with almost all the vaccines. Here, if you take the numbers, it is not as big the adverse events are. So there should not be a panic situation that the vaccine is causing any serious adverse effects. That is not the case. And vaccines are very safe. And for protecting ourselves and for our near and dear ones, vaccine is the choice we have at present. So everybody should get vaccinated given a choice.
Thank you. Dr. Hari, what is your take-home message? Somebody who got vaccinated, or after the vaccination, the precautions and the guard.
Yeah, so somebody who has been vaccinated, I think for the immediate side effects or allergic reactions, I think they are asked to actually wait for at least half an hour in the premises. So rest of the, after that, we know that already, as both of you have mentioned, it's minor side effects like flu-like symptoms, I mean fever, myalgias, injection site pain, maybe a bit of induration that can be managed with simple paracetamol or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. If at all they see anything which is out of the thing other than low-grade fever or myalgia, something out of thing, I think they should immediately report to the concerned authorities. Okay, I'm sure when they're vaccinated, they're given some particular contact number or something like that. I'm sure it'll be there, it will be given. So if there is something other than what is mentioned already, if they see any other adverse event, I think they should report it immediately. Otherwise, generally, it's just taking paracetamol as required, good, and staying well hydrated. That's good enough.
Yeah, I think the other point is you keep your guard on. You continue your PPE protection for probably 4 to 6 weeks after vaccination, also till you probably have a complete antibodies generation. It takes a time of 4 to 6 weeks. Probably after that also, till we have herd immunity, probably we have to continue this personal protective equipments, the mask, social distancing, and hand hygiene part of it. I think we come to an end of this session. I think it was an interactive session. I thank both Dr. Visweswaran and Dr. Harikishan and being here and enlightening us and answering all the queries. I urge all the clinicians, all the healthcare workers, whoever are attending this vaccine seminar or webinar, that at this point of time, the experience, the scientific data, the scientific community feels this vaccine is safe and effective. So all should get this vaccine on and stay safe. and stay healthy. We wish you a healthy 2021 at least by this vaccine. And I thank all of you, all the participants, and conclude the session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.